Hello everyone, welcome to the most common mistakes that intermediate players make. Today we're dealing with blunders and tactical mistakes. I think all of you have been to this situation that suddenly you just put a piece on price, you make a move that will allow an easy tactical trick for your opponent, you simply forget about them. And how could you deal with that? How can you practice not to let this happen? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the type of moves that are easiest to miss, the type of tactical ideas that are easiest to miss. And from my experience, it's actually long moves. When people put a piece on price, normally it is, that you miss that a bishop or a queen or a rook can take it from the other side of the board. So that's something to keep in mind and maybe to practice. Secondly, it is, of course, easier to miss unusual ideas and not the least in unusual positions because this kind of regular tactics that you see and that you work with, normally you do not miss them. Finally, if there is a mistake in a more normal positions, quite often it is a double threat. For example, you can give a check on a king and then take a rook or something like that. That could be missed. Or forks with knights, because forks are the most difficult theme when it comes to tactical ideas that a piece can make. So let's take a look what this can be in practice. I saw this position some days ago, and it was white to play in this position. And probably if white would have played like knight d2 or knight g5 even, white would be slightly better due to a better pawn structure. But in this position, white played knight h4. And I don't know, I think that the idea was bishop f6, g3. He was not afraid of the bishop taking the knight. But, of course, there is one big drawback with this move, and that is that black can play g5. That is quite an unusual move to play, and not the least, it is very unusual that your piece gets trapped like this in the beginning of a game. But still, this is what happened. This is a type of mistake that can happen, that you simply forget about, that your piece cannot move to a good square. So, next position is this one. This is a very famous position because black is Anatoly Karpov, former world champion, playing against Larry Christiansen from US. Larry is white in this position. And, you can see that it is an opening. And black tried to be creative here. So Karpov played bishop d6. And the idea is, of course, to take control of the black squares. Looks quite good, doesn't it? But white had a good move in this position. Larry played queen d1, went back with the queen and threatening both the bishop on d6 and the knight on h5. And Karpov had to resign, giving up in only 12 moves. A fantastic victory. And this shows that even the best players can forget about these kind of ideas of double threats. So finally, I have this position. And in this position, it is white to play. Okay, it was not the best opening for white, but still, if white would have played, like, for example, queen e2 in this position, the position is quite equal, and I think that white can hold with good play. But instead, white played queen to g3. And can you see what black could play now? The move looks decent. It's threatening on e5, the e5, and it's threatening on g7. But, of course, what could black play? Take on f2. Fantastic move. Because if the queen takes, then you have knight d3 with a fork on the king and the queen. And instead, after bishop take f2, if king take f2, you have knight take e4. Again, a fork with another knight. Quite easy to miss this kind of trick. So, the question is, of course, what to do about it. And here you have my best recommendations. First of all, there is a classical rule called sit on your hands. And that means that this impulse to make the move, you should stop it. Just try to be a little bit away from the position before you make your move to see so you do not miss something simple. I always call it the last check of the position. This could be like a routine you have that you are analyzing, but just before you make your move, take a step back, look at the position. I do not miss anything, hopefully, and then that's it. And actually, this would have good questions and guidelines when you play. This can normally help the way that you think. This is what I mean with a map in the position, to find in your backpack the right way to think and to find the right kind of themes. And some really good questions are: loose pieces drop off, and what tactical ideas might be possible. As a good routine as a player, those two questions you can always ask yourself before you play your move, or even when you start to think about your position. Because loose pieces drop off, that means that those pieces of your opponent or on your own that are unprotected, most likely those are the ones that can have a tactical threat against them. It could also be like, you have one kind of threat on a piece that is a little bit protected, but you feel that this could be a little bit loose hanging piece. Then there might be a tactical trick against it. And to ask yourself, what tactical ideas that I have practiced at home might be possible in the position? What kind of conditions do we have in the position? What kind of elements are there? Can I find a way to make use of it with the tactical ideas? If you ask yourself those two questions, normally you will not miss the kind of moves that we saw, for example, from Karpov against Larry Christiansen. So now you know how to avoid blunders and tactical ideas for your opponent. Bye!